Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Press Enterprise High School Football Video Podcast. I am Press Enterprise Sports Editor Tim Hare. I'm wearing my glasses, so I'm going to say smart things. I'm joined by Adam Roberts, also wearing his glasses, so our brilliance is just off the charts. Beaming. We've got the short hair, we've got the glasses. We look like we should be trying to get the boys on Apollo 13 home safely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm going to bring you back down to earth, and I'm going to bring everybody back down to earth. Talk about something football-related, not high school, and the roast of Tony Romo. Tony Romo has been doing an awesome job in his first year.
He has.
As a broadcaster.
He kind of had it coming. He went after Dion.
But I think a slip of the tongue, I think maybe even on purpose.
Oh, he wasn't wrong. Dion
pulled a punch there on one of his colleagues, and Dion let him know, and it was not pretty.
It was pretty savage.
Speaking of things that were ugly, Southern's win over North Penn Mansfield, that was kind of a landslide victory for Southern, and we also kind of expected that.
Right, but credit to North Penn, they kept it close. It was a game in the first quarter.
Why was it?
Well, they threw the ball.
No, I'm just kidding. But
here's the thing.
Fleming, obviously, clearly the most important part of that secondary, and missing. There's no surprise that an offensive coordinator is going to target that. I mean, you got to go after the weakest link.
Well, and no one can run on that front eight. I mean, you look at the rushing yardage. I just did the stats. I mean, the printout's still warm. 623 yards in 11 games. No one is running on them.
No.
So what are you going to do? You're going to throw the ball 30 times and just take your chances that you hit a couple big plays. Maybe you get some stops. I mean, it's a very narrow window you have to beat Southern, and that's what you have to do.
I think what's more impressive, and we talked about it earlier, is with Fleming out on offense, was Southern going to be really one-dimensional? Was it just going to be Gage Garcia? Or was Stoughton Hollenbach going to be able to find other receivers and move the football despite his absence? And that seemed to be the case.
Yeah, they didn't seem slow too much without Fleming. Now, obviously, you don't lose someone like Julian Fleming and not feel it. But they didn't feel like they had to just run the ball. They threw it 16 times. Hollenbach, he was his typical efficient self, completed 11. He found other guys. Preston Zachman had 5 catches. Tristan Heim had a couple. Chicatano, a tight end, had a touchdown. And I think if you're a Southern fan, that's got to be encouraging to see that there are other weapons in that passing game that they can take advantage of.
So also looking at another team that won, Mount Carmel. I know you don't want to look too far ahead, but I think that the win that they had, though, was impressive with South Williamsport. But you got to think they get one more.
Yeah. Well, first of all, now I feel like a huge idiot because last year I picked Mount Carmel to beat South. South beat them by 40 points, so I was like, all right, won't get fooled again. I picked South this time, and Mount Carmel went out and kind of. I think it was Mitch Rupert who said South Williamsport got South Williamsported. That Mount Carmel didn't have to complete a pass, ran for 250 plus. Just shortened the game, kept that defense on the field, and never really let Gideon Green get going to the extent that he typically does. He still got his, but South was forced to throw the ball. They had to throw 16 passes, which that's not what they want to do. And I want to say Mount Carmel picked 3 of them. They did everything you need to do to beat South Williamsport. And you're right, they have a winnable game this week because Line Mountain upset Wellsboro. And I think it's a very clear path to a Southern Mount Carmel district final for the first time ever.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You don't want to look too far ahead at you want to take a game by game, but I don't know if you could pick a more exciting district finale between 2 teams in the district.
Right, because Mount Carmel is a very deceiving 7-4. That's wrong on my sheet. I'll have to fix that. They're a very deceiving 7-4, not 8-4 like I printed, like the idiot I am.
Yeah, not taking it game by game, clearly.
Right. But they had those tough games with the Selinsgroves and the Southerns and the North Schuylkills.
Two storied programs, and one of those rivalry games where you throw the records out. And that's definitely ones that you're going to throw them out because those are teams that like to run the football and a lot of firepower in those games. I mean, both teams end up scoring. I know the first one wasn't this year, but traditionally, if you look in the past, they usually high-scoring games.
No one has defended Southern better than Mount Carmel did. And in that first game in Week 3, I was lucky enough to get to see it. Manus McCracken and Jack Chapman, the Mount Carmel linebackers, had the games of their lives. And a lot of that was a credit to the front five, not letting that Southern line sort of set the line of scrimmage, and just kind of tying up blockers and letting those linebackers fire in. They keyed hard on Garcia. He got the one long run. But Southern won, but it was a late defensive touchdown. It was a 15-7 game in the fourth quarter. And it'll be very interesting to see, if it happens, how it plays out this time.
Yeah, and let's go to the game that you were at, Central. Not an easy win at all if you look at the score, 20-6. What did you get out of that one?
Well, Central was limited on offense. They had a new starter at center, and it was a freshman, and they felt like they couldn't run between the guards. So they attacked the perimeter. If they ran 30 times, it's no stretch to say they ran toss right or toss left at least 20 of those times. And that worked for them on the first drive when Gensimer had about 50 yards. Towanda adjusted. They shut down the edge. And it really kind of limited Central in what they could do on offense. I think they only had about 60 yards in the second half. They struggled in the pass a little bit. And that was another game where they had to rely on a defensive touchdown. And they got some short fields where every drive in the fourth quarter, they were on Towanda's side of the field to start and couldn't punch it in, had to get 2 field goals to kind of ice the game. They get some guys back this week. There were some disciplinary issues where some people didn't play last week. That'll help them, but they're most comfortable when they get Gensimer going and throw off the run rather than just trying to unleash Trey Devlin. And so they're going to have to try to get something going with Gensimer against Southern.
And then also Bloomsburg, the other local team just down the road, with an unfortunate, tough loss to Northwest. If you asked me before the game, and I think I told you, I thought Northwest was going to win. You thought the other way.
I did.
Ended up not being the case. They lost in 3 overtimes, a thriller. Kind of the story of Bloomsburg's season, the way it kind of trended at the end. Just kind of couldn't close it out. Couldn't get it done in close games.
First of all, credit to Bloom, for not only it didn't go the way they wanted, but having the guts on the road to go for 2 in triple overtime and just try to win it outright. But also just, you're trailing 3-0 in the fourth quarter and you make it a game and you force that overtime. I didn't cover the game, but from what I understand, I think their best player, Eric Faust, and banged up against Central in Week 10, didn't play. I know from the stat sheet he didn't have any touches.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how he finishes his career senior season, rather, 15 receptions, second on the team. If you would have asked me 2 years ago after his brilliant sophomore season what his senior year would have looked like, I could tell you it definitely wouldn't have been second on the team in receptions. And that's not to say that the receiver who finished first wasn't deserving of that.
Absolutely.
But you just kind of thought that the role he had earlier on would have only expanded, and those yards that he had early on would have just also.
The little bit that I saw Bloomsburg, I was just really impressed with the way, because he didn't get used much in the passing game, but I was very impressed with how he ran the ball. Not only the yardage he picked up, but just the toughness. He was finishing runs, that Walter Payton style of, you'd rather be the hammer than the nail and you're going to deliver a hit. Just a big physical kid. And I know Bloom doesn't like to focus on just one guy in the running game. They like to spread it around. But I feel like they didn't use Faust to his full potential.
No, I don't think so either. But I think if you're going to take away one thing out of Bloomsburg this year, I think if you look at Hunter Coulter, I think he ended up being a pleasant surprise. I didn't really expect to see him really take over the rushing attack like he did for the team, and I think that was he did a tremendous job for them.
He's a nice player, all the speed in the world, and he comes back next year. which, if you're a Bloomsburg fan, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, something to definitely build on. Hopefully his production, certainly continues and trends upward. Berwick was the game I was at.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, Wyoming area, you had some questions. Not that Berwick left any doubt when they won earlier in the season. They didn't have Jared Marshman, so getting Jared back, kind of wondered how much of a boost that would give them, how much score would change. And it really ended up being not much different if you look at it. I mean, Berwick won 42-0, and they beat Wyoming area earlier. Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It was a close game at Wyoming area.
That was the game where Backhorn
17-14.
3 minutes left.
So, yeah, I wondered, how much of a boost that would give them in the second game, and it ended up being a lot. Clearly, Jared Marshman kind of took over and really established the offense. I saw some balls that he threw that were dropped, but I think because he kind of had a little too much of that mustard on it, it just went right through the receiver's hands. So it's nice to see him planning and throwing and delivering the ball, kind of how he expected to be doing earlier in the season and not, being injured. But I think that that's a good sign that shows that, I think he's finally at 100% on the field after the injury. And I think that the defense has kind of recovered from, the not getting off the field against Williamsport and then also kind of being on the field the whole second half against Lake Lehman. I think that was a strong performance heading into North Pocono.
Now, let me ask you this, because obviously I'll have to do my predictions later in the week. Read them in Friday's Press Enterprise. Wink. But I'm going to take you through the games and get who you think is going to win each of. We have 4 games this week. So let's start with the game you'll be covering. You have North Pocono, who is a 4 seed, coming to Crispin to play Berwick. And I think the question this year is, how good was the Wyoming Valley? Was Berwick that good, or was it a mediocre conference? And how good was the Lackawanna League that North Penn's coming out of?
Yeah, to answer your question, I don't know how many teams can take their second string quarterback and go 6-1 in the regular season, 5-1 in the regular season,
and at times third string.
Yeah. And in that game against Selinsgrove that they lost, they were down to the third string. So I think that might be indicative of your question there. That I don't think that some of these teams had quite the firepower offensively that they might have had in the past, where a guy might be going to Penn State here. I think in the cases that we saw, it was maybe a lineman going somewhere. So, yeah, the lineman's a key part of any team. But, is he going to be that difference maker on the scoreboard that much? Probably not. So I'm going to say that Berwick definitely has the edge in North Pocono. I'm going to give it 21-10. I'm going to say it's not. I'm going to give North Pocono, the reigning District 2 champions, their credit that they're back here for a reason. But I'm going to say, the fireworks and everything at Crispin Field, that's, it's hard to play on the road there.
Did they still startle you, the fireworks?
No, I've calmed down. I'm not as gun shy anymore. I'm used to the fireworks. They don't. My pen doesn't go off the page every time. So.
All right, we're getting to the end here, so we're going to do the speed round.
Okay.
The game I'm covering is Central at Southern. Who do you like in that one? The number one?
Central's Blue Jays are taking the L. Sorry, Bird Gang. Tigers all day in that one.
Yeah, I mean, and a good takeaway from the season, a 9-win season, which, if I'm being honest, I probably didn't see out of Central. I think they exceeded the expectations I had, so, no shame in that. Mm-hmm. What do you see from Mount Carmel Line Mountain?
Mount Carmel, I think we're going to see what we talked about earlier. We're going to see a win there in a Southern Mount Carmel District 4 championship for the first time. You heard it here first.
All right, and the last game we have, an intriguing one. Danville playing for a district final against a Loyalsock team that has a lot of offensive firepower, but a bit of a leaky defense.
I'm going to have to say that Danville has, after kind of struggling, it seemed like at times, I think they've really settled down, and I think that they're coming off a nice performance over Mifflinburg. Obviously a down team. Same thing with Warrior Run at the end of the season. But I think that's going to be a competitive game. I'm going to go with the Loyalsock. I'm going to have to say that's going to be probably 28-20.
All right, you're going with the Lancers.
Sox.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, you'll have to wait until Friday for my predictions. Sorry.
You get mine for free now.
But if you liked what you heard here, please go to pressenterpriseonline.com. You can find all the playbooks that we did this past season. There won't be one this week. We're done with the playbook for the season. But we will have preview information in Friday's paper, predictions. Also on the website, we have tweets from our games and links to our stories. So please check that out there. But for Adam Roberts, I am Press Enterprise Sports Editor Tim Hare, and we will see you next week.